Welcome to the Bonded Banter podcast, another episode. Thanks for listening. Joined, obviously, Connor's here. Hey, pal.
Hey, mate.
Don't call me mate. I hate it. And joined by Jamahl Lolesi, obviously a good friend. And now we've got him on to have a chat just about sport professionally. He as a father of now a young son that is a budding athlete, what it was like for him growing up with his father and the lessons he learned to then pass on to his children and also his son who's trying to make a name for himself and have a career. Hey, mate.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Enjoyed the first one.
Our pleasure.
Nice. Played rugby league professionally with 229 games or something like that,
Yeah.
I read.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of reading up on him.
Bit of
Yeah.
Two international caps.
2 international caps. Yeah, fond memories. Had a good career. I was probably lucky to get out when I did in terms of my body and my mental health and my health in general. But it was a great time in my life and something I have fond memories of, yeah.
Got out. You were lucky to get out.
Yeah, I think I was at the point in my career where you either just keep playing and playing to try and get contracts and just prolong it and just keep going and going.
Yeah.
And then your body just takes those last 3 or 4 years that the impact you don't need.
Then you're slow.
Then you're slow. Then everything.
Everyone's talking about you.
That's right, yeah. And then you're getting bagged. And
Yeah.
I was probably still fairly high in terms of the performances that I was doing, but I got to a point in my career where mentally I had a big surgery and I can remember saying to the missus, I don't know if I can come back from this, do the rehab for 6 months, try and fight my way back into the team and hold off 2 really good young players that were coming through at the time when I was in England. And they were just really good young athletes ready to go. And I just didn't know if I had the mental capability to push through and get there. And so I just decided if I wasn't 100% in, all in, then I was 100% all out.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very adult of you.
Yeah, well,
Particularly when you're talking about your livelihood.
yeah, I think at that point in my career, I was at a point where I was really happy with, and me and the missus were doing really well. Everything else was really good away from rugby league. And I thought to myself, if I do it now while I'm in a good place,
Yeah.
then there will be opportunities for me outside the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as it happened, when I did tell the coach that I don't think I can come back from this injury and do the rehab and he said, well, there's an assistant coach job going.
Yep.
We were going to look for someone in Australia, but if you're going to finish, we'd be happy to have you do it.
How many years did you coach for? A couple of years?
No, I ended up coaching for about 8 years
Over there?
over there.
Huge. Huge.
Yep.
Life after footy.
Mm.
Do you reckon that fell on your lap? Or
It fell in my lap 150%. And
Yeah,
and that's what I think I made the right decision. I wasn't feeling I was there 100% there mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did close that door on the game and say that I'm ready to give it away, that was there ready to go. And I think if I had pushed, I would have come away from the game probably a bit battered, a bit sore, and probably no opportunities.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
We've spoken about that resilience side of things with Connor and his injuries, but you were lucky that you had an opportunity to, call it quits when you didn't have to push through that mental barrier, or you didn't have to. Did you have parts of your career injury-wise? Like one of our biggest messages is about resilience and getting back up off the canvas.
Yeah, I did. I had probably the biggest injury I had was I fractured my ankle about 4 weeks before the grand final.
This is then when they won the flag.
When they won it, yeah.
Oh.
And it was,
It was 2004.
yeah,
and
that did a fair bit of trauma and damage, yeah, to
So
me mentally.
you're part of the football team, like you're flying, and then you break your ankle,
I think there was only 2 of us who played every game that year.
and then
It
you
was
miss.
me and Steve Price, and we both missed.
Yeah, I remember him running around.
Yeah.
What did he do?
He had a muscle injury, I'm pretty sure, like a hammy or something.
But so you both missed the winning grand final.
Yep.
That's just, I've never been in that position, but that can't be fun.
No, that rattled me. That rattled me big time. I like looking back on it now. I put on a brave face and I tried to just get back. We had next year we came back and played as the premiers. We were hopeless.
Yeah.
And that year I was probably spiraling. That was probably the beginning of the end in terms of my career in Australia, because that was coming to a head for me because of that situation, I would say. Yeah.
Huge. What did you do? Like, who did you turn to? What did you go within? Like support networks?
I don't think I turned to anyone.
Yeah, right.
That may have been my greatest downfall. Although my dad I was so close with him, he was like my best mate. I think I turned more to just drinking and partying and
standard Band-Aid.
Yeah. And it was a short-term fix, but it ended up being like quite a chaotic period of time of my life. And, you know, like my really good friends were there for me. You know, Willie Mason I speak to him quite regularly still. He was always there for me. But it was different when they're your teammates. It's hard to go and talk to them about how much missing that game does affect an athlete, because you build your whole career up and your whole livelihood to get to that moment, and it's right there in front of me. And 4 weeks before we go out and do it, I have a fractured ankle. And probably what was the hardest part was I went in the hyperbaric chamber for 2 weeks straight and did everything I could. And on the 4th week, our reserves were playing in the major semi-final to make the grand final. And I came out and just said to the doctor, I've got to play this week because in the reserves, because if I come through this game all right and there's an injury, I'm all right to go next week. So I played the game. I don't know how many injections he put in that thing. But, mate, when I hobbled around for 80 minutes and got through it, and I can just remember taking my boot off after the game and my ankle was just enormous. And credit to, like, my teammates all came and watched me, you know, but after the game they're all like, what were you doing out there?
Were you playing in second row then?
I was playing out in the centres for that game. Yeah.
Is that where you're playing in that
team? I played in the centres.
In the A grade, so in the centres as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wikipedia's got you going second row centre wing. Is that right?
I didn't know.
Second row first?
I started.
He wrote his own Wikipedia.
yeah, he's edited it.
Connor's been changing
No,
it.
that is true. I went out to the wing. I started on the wing.
Yeah,
and I moved into the centres.
Yeah.
And then I moved. When I went to the Tigers, I played a lot of back row.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I went overseas, I played a lot of back row. And then later in my career, I went back to the centres and finished there.
Yeah, right.
In the team that we were in. I was coached by an Aussie, Nathan Brown, who was a really good mate of mine. And I ended up being his assistant.
From St George?
From St George.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to just head back out there, and we had a young back line and be a little bit more of a veteran out there to help him. And that's why I say to you, when I had the surgery, coming back from that injury, there was 2 really good young centres.
Yeah.
Jamaican English kids.
Yeah, okay.
Just proper athletes.
Like
6'2", just like run like
the modern hybrid
athletes. And I'm looking at them training every day, and I'm like, I don't think I'm.
You're resting on your laurels.
I don't think I'm on the bike just going, this isn't happening, boys. I think she's done.
So you touched on your dad. What was it like growing up for you?
It was tough. He was a hard man. As I suppose the times we were living in that generation, they had probably been raised really hard. Mm-hmm. I know my old man had, and my old man had quite a traumatic teenage years when he was transforming into a young man. Mm-hmm. His father passed away in a boating accident in Auckland Harbour.
Right,
and he was a young teenager at that point, a young man, and I know that was quite traumatic for him. And so I don't think he knew any other way how to raise his kids apart from how he got raised. And so that transferred from him down to me.
Did he have to pick up the slack was he the eldest son?
He wasn't the eldest son.
But did he pick up the slack?
He did a bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had 3 brothers and they all did.
Yeah.
But I would say he had 4 brothers, 3 brothers, that it affected them all in different ways. Mm. But I can imagine it would be as it would for any of us sitting here, if we lose your father at that, when you're just becoming a young man, it can be quite traumatic.
Oh, yeah. That'd be pretty insane, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
Like I couldn't imagine that.
No, me neither. You'd be so lost.
Well, that's your hero, isn't it?
Yeah. And I suppose those are the years where your father's, you look to him to mould into the type of person
massive role model.
Yeah. And when that is gone, that's just probably left on yourself to raise yourself how you think your adult life should look.
Well, you're living in legacy, aren't you? Which is not potentially true.
Did he find anyone else to look up to a little bit, or?
I think back in those days, I don't. I think all the older brothers, I think they just moved on to what was next in life, which was having families and and I don't think they found another role model is to say like a dad, because there was never that person as a granddad. I didn't have that person. They probably didn't look for that person.
Yeah.
So I would probably say no, they didn't replace him.
It's hard.
Then you go to Keebra Park.
Went to Keebra. Yep.
All of school.
All of high school. Yep. I went to Benalla Primary and to Keebra Park.
Yeah. As of obviously the footy school.
Yep.
As a
the
project, and then they have affiliation with Canberra. I thought and West Tigers.
They had West Tigers, but at that point I made the Queensland schoolboys team and got spotted by a scout down in Melbourne, who I actually got injured in the very first game after about 20 minutes. But the scout had seen enough. He flew straight up, and I thought I was done. I thought I'm not going to get any offers here. I didn't play enough. I didn't play long enough. Knock on the door, meeting with the parents, sign the contract, and I think I left 2 months later after school finished. 17.
See you later.
Yep.
You said that your old man was quite hard. What sort of characteristics did he have? Like, what does it look like for you?
The
traits that do you carry those with you now, or have you been able to discern from passing them on?
I think I carry some of them.
Right.
Inherently. I think that was bound to happen, just the relationship that we had. Like you said, he was like my hero. He was like my best friend,
Yes.
So I just wanted to be like him. And so I think I have some of those traits, some negative, a lot of them positive. But yeah, when I say he was hard on me, when I look back on it now that I've finished playing sport and I'm a lot older now, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, 100% categorically, had he not been that hard with me, there was absolutely 0% chance I would have made it in sports.
Yep.
The environment I went down to as a 17-year-old down in Canberra, my first training session was with the first team, and they were doing 400s. And I went from training with schoolmates at 17 to running 400s with David Furner,
primed athletes,
Kenny Nagats, Brett Mullins, Laurie Daly, and I didn't even last. I'm under a tree, spewing my guts up. I didn't get very far. I just never had trained at that intensity ever in my whole entire life.
It was a big culture shock going down there and training with those sort of names.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it was
watching them on telly.
I was watching them on telly. The next week I'm training.
Yeah, 6 months later.
Getting flogged. We're just getting absolutely flogged. And I just like, look, my dad didn't prepare me physically. I didn't have a man's body. I still had a...
That's what I was going to ask. So I had my old man was very much flog you physically, so then you become resilient mentally.
I got that.
Yes.
I did get that. He was very big on making sure I was ready mentally. Mm-hmm. That was his big thing.
Which is like, that's beyond his time.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It was. Yeah. His idea for me was, and he would often say it, I didn't make any rep teams at the under 15 level. I was overlooked for other players. And so at 15, he said to me, if this is really what you want to do, tell me now, and I'll help you if this is what you want to do. But it's not going to be easy if this is what you want to do, because you got so much ground to make up on the kids who are already in front of you. I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. So straight away, he enrolled me. I did swimming 3 times a week before school. Then school would finish, he'd pick me up, drive me to Ashmore. Went downstairs, I did boxing for an hour and a half, and then I'd go in the gym with him for an hour. And then I'd train with my team on Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoons, and we'd train at school with Keebra Park pretty much most days. Mm. And so when I look back on my training schedule, he was way ahead of his time. And the stuff he was making me do was, he knew I was a terrible swimmer. He knew I just couldn't swim. I'm an islander. Have you seen the islanders in the pool? We don't swim, we sink.
Yeah, sink.
Yeah. And so he forced me to go to this swimming class. Anyway, I got put in the worst group, but they're just like fish. They're just...
glide across the top of water.
It took me about 3 months to actually tag onto the back of the last person and stick with them through the sessions.
Far out.
3 months it took me, but he knew I couldn't swim and he knew I hated it, so he put me in it because he knew mentally it would be just an absolute shit fight for me. It'd be chaos for me inside my head. Yeah. Because when you're swimming, looking at that line and you're just struggling for air, there's just no one except you in your mental thoughts. You know, you just get you versus you in that pool and that
Straight
black line. And so he was, when you say he was ahead of his time, I reckon he was. And then he would take me to boxing in the afternoons, and he would say to the guy there, I was like 15, he would say to the guy, no, he's got to spar. So they put me in the big head things, and then I was just getting punched off these blokes. For like, yeah, and then it took me a couple of months to learn how to defend myself and figure out where I need to put my body, and I don't want to get hit here. And then he was just gradual, and then I would have to go do gym with him, and he would make me lift some ridiculous weights, some just insane weights. I couldn't lift them. But I don't think he wanted me to lift him. I think he just wanted me to get the heavy weight and give it a go and just see how far I can push myself. Yeah.
That's insane that he had the foresight.
Yeah.
Where does that come from for him? Because he didn't have that from his father.
No.
Didn't get that, obviously.
I think he played rugby league, and he was quite good when he was younger. And I think his old man was hard on him, but not to that extent. But I think my old man, he was really fit. He loved training. He loved doing weights, and he just kept himself super fit. But I think he knew at 15 what it would take for me to get to play sports, if that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so in his mind, I think in the back of his head, he was thinking, I've got to push this kid mentally and take him as far as I can take him. And then if he can handle me being on his back every single day for 3 years, when he leaves this household and I've got to let him go to the next part of his journey, he'll be all right. Everyone after him was a breeze. And that was true.
Yeah, right. But he tried to break you every day.
Every day. Yep. And you know, like that's what he said to me. He said, when you leave this house, you got to be ready. Anyone that comes after me will be a breeze for you. And he was true. I couldn't do that running when I went down with them boys in first grade. But as soon as I got my breath back and I was all right, I jumped back in and started running.
Yeah, that level of resilience.
It just didn't matter to me. It's like, okay, the physical pain's all right. You know, then the coaches would grouse on me if I made mistakes and that. Yeah. This is nowhere near as bad as what my dad did.
Water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
So you were built. That's pretty cool that he had the foresight to do that.
Yeah.
Now you've got your own.
Yeah. That's been a challenge.
Do you catch yourself not being your father?
I don't catch myself not being my father. My wife will catch me being my father. And then I check myself and remind myself that it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a different way.
What's the different way? So do you have conversations around alternatives?
Yeah. Yeah, my wife's really good. She is a sounding board for me. Look, the hardest thing for me is sometimes with the type of kid he is, he's a really, really hard marker on himself. And he can be really hard on himself. So there's no need for me to do that. Right. Sometimes he just needs love.
More so?
Yeah.
Which is easy for you.
Yeah. But sometimes I find myself getting emotional about what's happened during the performance, and he just needs a bit of an arm around him, but I can't get out of that. I'm like already thinking, my coach head's on. I'm like, no, you did this wrong. You did. And really what's required is just, hey, buddy, that was great what you did. The effort was there. Sometimes the execution wasn't there, but I'm proud of you for what you did out there.
Yeah, we spoke about while Connor was a kid, he would listen to me a lot more. But as he's grown, his footy IQ will surpass and leave mine behind.
Yep.
Wonder how long before that happens. Or he seems like he's already across it.
I think he might have just this last year. Because look, the thing for my lad is, you know, I've had to make a longer term plan for him with his help, because he's never been the fastest kid and he's never been the biggest. He's always been the smallest and he's always been the slowest. Mm-hmm. And so for him, I've always tried to tell him that you've got to use your brain more than other players, because physically you can't just rely on size, power and speed. And that's absolutely fine, because it's the same in every sport. It'd be the same in AFL. It'd be the same for the smaller kids. They just can't outrun people. They can't match them physically. You got to figure out how you can play better when you get the ball.
Well, that's going to come and go, the athleticism and the strength and all that sort of stuff. Where your mind, you're always going to have that.
Correct.
And footy smarts.
Yeah, the footy smarts. So like his IQ is already probably. I don't know much about soccer. Yeah, I know a lot about how I can prepare you physically and mentally, but I can't.
Which is great because
it's good. It works well.
It's probably 80-20, isn't it? Yeah. Like the mental side of it, which your dad's done for you.
Yeah, a lot of the, like, with sports and that sort of stuff, like, you don't you don't have to be handing him about like plays and that sort of stuff and the side of soccer. You just teach him the mental skills that he has to have, because that's what he's got the coaches and stuff for. Like, he's probably got 5 line coaches and that sort of stuff to talk to him about the soccer and the sort of plays he's got to do. But if you just prepare him mentally, it's going to go a long way.
And that's pretty much what you've just said there, is pretty much the blueprint that we're at, what we've had for the last few years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think to myself, because of his physical attributes, my job as a dad is to make sure he's thinking faster than everybody else. Yeah. And so we work on those. We have, things that we do, training that we do that he does for that exact type situation. And so when I say that I do a lot of work with him coaching wise, it's not to do with soccer or football, because I don't know the slot. I don't know how you kick a ball from there to that wall. I can't even use my left foot when he's like kicking it to me. Do you know what I mean? So I can't actually give him any advice in terms of the sport that he's in. But like what you've just said there, Connor, I can give him advice on mentally how I can get him ready sharp, and how he can get himself ready mentally. And I think that's where he has a little bit of an advantage on other kids. He's very savvy mentally. But he's an emotional kid, and so the line of dealing with him, when do I be hard with him, when do I put an arm around him, has been quite hard for me to see. It's hard for me sometimes to see it when I need to do it, and that's why my wife's been great. She's like, hey, he just needs a hug. Just give him a hug. He just needs a hug.
Your intuition to that is 0.
I can't.
Most men, inherently, it's not that great. That's a learnt behaviour from us as fathers. To want to do, or to be across that, when to push him or when to pull back. But we are more, we're luckier now with what we have, because we have the aptitude, I think, to potentially know that a lot better than our fathers did. Like, it was just balls to the wall. This is what you're fucking doing. I don't give a shit. You're getting it done. Which is pretty much what you've explained. But how's his conversation? Will you actually sit there and have chats with him emotionally or mentally, what he's going through and what he's facing, what he's feeling? Or is that more comes from his mum?
He will disclose a lot more to his mum. And then she will have a conversation with me about, hey, listen, we spoke about this. He doesn't like it when you do this or say that, or sometimes just he just needs to be left and figure it out for himself. And like you said, my ability to see those things is not very good as a dad. I'm getting better.
Yeah, of course.
Getting better, but you can always get better. But I think we make a good team, me and the missus, because she knows what her strengths are and I know what my strengths are, and together we can come together and help each other in that department. And she'll be the same. She's like, hey, look, I think you need, he might need a bit of a rocket up his bum this week. Like he didn't do his homework. He's this and that, and he's lacking here, and he's and so she's okay with me having that line in the sand where it's like, hey, buddy, this isn't good enough. You need to get back on top of this stuff. So she's not against me being hard with him, because I think she does understand and she does realise what it is going to take to go further beyond our household.
Well, she's lived, and you're fortunate because you've been to war with that. You know what it is like to be at the coalface of being a professional athlete, from whether it's from the media, journalists, whatever it is. You're fighting with yourself, coaches, teammates. Like, it would have to be one of the hardest things that you could possibly try and prepare him for. Hey, far out.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, when you went through the draft process, kind of it's not an easy thing to do. It's if you think about the amount of players that actually do what you've done so far, the percentages would be tiny.
Bugger all.
It's a hard thing to prepare themselves, and so I always think to myself, his chances of making it are really minute. They're quite small. But I always think to myself, my job as a dad is just to give him the best chance of what he wants to do beyond our household. If this is what he wants to do, I'm going to give him the best chance I can. And so, I often, to think about it, some people do say, hey, look, Ryan does train a lot and he does this and he does that. And I think there's this really good quote going around, and I think it was I don't know who it was. I saw it on Twitter one day. It's a he was a talent ID for the Sydney Olympic Games, and he was going around looking at all the best 10, 11-year-old gymnastics and, swimmers and whatever, divers. And he did this thing where he says, there is no elite 11 and 12-year-olds. There is no elite. You just got to let them play the sport and figure it out. And I agree with that to an extent. 100% do. There is no elite. There's no such thing as an elite 12-year-old. But they're never too young to have an elite mindset.
Yeah.
That can start from a very young age. And I have put that in our household. I've always said to him, mate, if your mindset is elite, it can be elite at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter what age you are. If it's elite, it's elite. And you can just keep working and building, and you'll be miles in front of other kids by the time you come to 15. The training, okay, regardless. You do a little bit more than other kids, whatever. The mindset, that's what's going to separate you. In the end, when you get right into it and there's a kid that's really good and you're really good and the coaches look at it and they go, I just want that kid because he's tough.
We've spoken about this with Connor and his mindset around resilience and just continually showing up. Do you think that you're born with it? Can you develop it? Or do you think you just have that shit about you?
I think you develop it. I think you can be born with it. There's no doubt about that.
You got to have something.
Yeah, I think you can be born with that, just that killer mentality. Just
that dog.
I want it, I'm going to go get it, and that's it. And I think
the dog.
Got that dog in you.
100%. I think you can be born with it, but I also think you can develop it. I actually know you can develop it. I look at it this way, right? People always say to me, you shouldn't put too much pressure on your kids to play sports. You play this and play that. And then I look, in our Western society, we are very quick to say that. We are very quick to say, don't put too much, just let them enjoy themselves and let them have fun.
Oh, we could go down a real rabbit hole with this.
So like hypothetically, let's just say, in this country, in America and England and all these Western, and the countries are great and everything's good, and we just say, let them go out and have fun. Or what do you think the parents in Brazil that live in the shanty towns, where the drug dealers have just overrun the shanty towns, and people, you got two options: you go and sell drugs in the favelas, or you die doing that, or you got to find a way to get out of those favelas. Yeah. What do you reckon the parents are saying to their kids who are really good at soccer over there in Brazil?
100%.
Grilling them.
They're saying, you get out on that field, and you play your ass off and figure a way how to get out of these favelas.
Yeah.
Because that is your ticket out.
Kids.
I know, 100%. And it's okay for us to sit here in this civilization with McDonald's and everything handed to us.
All the creatures.
And everybody's there saying, hey, just let them have fun. There's got to be a fine line between, hey, if this is what you want to do in life, this is what it's going to take. Because this is what the kids in Brazil are doing. This is what the kids in Africa are doing. Yeah. Don't have the opportunities you have. This is what they're doing. They're playing in bare feet with no footy boots on a clay field with a ball that's made up out of socks with sticky tape around it. And they're figuring out how to get out of there.
Break your foot.
That's their chances.
Well, he's coming for your son's spot, and he's putting in all that work. So you got to train him just.
And he'll be a 10 times better athlete as well. Exactly. I'll guarantee you of it.
Yeah.
So what's going to be the difference between the kids when they get to the top? The difference between, and you would know, you've probably seen it 1,000 times in AFL, and I've seen it 1,000 times as a coach in rugby league. And I didn't see it until I was a coach. But when you're picking between two players, it's really easy to pick the kid who's got more mental toughness.
Oh, for sure.
And that comes with being coachable too, right? That's we've spoken about, haven't it? It's like that 80-20 thing. Like it is all that.
It's being coachable, being tough. Those are the because like Connor just said before, right? Let's just go like the elite athletes when they get to the very top, which they're all elite athletes.
Totally.
I mean, you don't see the pie man playing in the VFL anymore, in the AFL.
Yeah.
You look at the body types.
Yeah.
These guys are like Olympic runners. These guys are ridiculous athletes, right? And so when they're all really good, they're all at the top of their elite level, what's separating them?
Totally.
The only thing separating the really good players from the really bad ones is their mentality, the toughness, their grittiness. They're able to bounce back. I always say to my son, mate, the best players in the world in any sport have the shortest memories.
So true.
They don't know they've just made a mistake. They go straight back to it. They don't care. They don't know. They don't give a crap what mistakes they've made. They get to the next play. They're on it.
They're lucky and they're fortunate to play a sport that is like that. I mean, there's other sports, if it's cricket and stuff like that, like you one mistake, you're out, like your day's done.
Yeah.
Where those games or those sports, you can fuck up and then fix it within 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually a study done on tennis players.
Yeah.
And it was actually really interesting. So the study was the difference between the top 5 players in the world in both categories, men's and women's, and the other 20 that were behind them. So they only did it on the top 25 in the world at the time. And they found that the top 5 players in the world could bounce back from mistakes within 15 to 20 seconds. And then the 20 outside them was like 30 to 45 seconds. So it wasn't much when you think about it.
Probably
It's
two
only a little
little
bit more.
games or 2 points.
Well, you add that
right?
up over 3 sets or 5 sets over a full year, how much time that is in games able to bounce back from negative.
Oh,
It ends up being huge.
huge.
And that's the difference. So the difference between the most elite tennis players in the world is 15 seconds of mental toughness.
Absolute resilience, isn't it?
It's just that if that is the difference between being the greatest and just being okay.
So where to for him? What do you
Well, I suppose for him,
just nurture him?
nurturing. Yeah, I think we've got to a point in his life where he just needs an arm around him, and just support from us as parents.
Yep.
I don't think he needs a dad coach anymore. Like, I think he's gone past that point.
Which is probably a real blessing in disguise, because I know my personal experience that the polarity shifts and the dynamic shifts, and it's hard to regain that father-son relationship because it's very easy to break it through being pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yep.
You only do it because you want the best.
Yep.
However, it can really hinder
Yeah. I guess
father-son relationship.
I guess this last 6 months, what you've just spoke about there, has been a real concerted effort for me to repair a lot of past experiences that I may have given into him that were negative. Because I, to my admission, I have been quite a lot harder than him than some other dads would have been on.
Because you gave a shit.
Because I cared, and I wanted him to be ready mentally, because I knew he was competing. He was behind the 8 ball in physical, and it took me. It has taken him a while to get where he is mentally, and he's at a really good place at the moment. And so now it's time for me to step back and let him go into the next part of his journey. But I will say this: I think I'm going to struggle now not being that dad coach,
Totally.
because I've really enjoyed it. It's our time together, and now I feel like that's slowly just coming to an end. I don't know how that will affect me mentally.
The
But I
bond
am
is
aware
breaking.
of it. Yeah. I feel like that part of our life that journey has just come to its end, and he's ready to go to his next part of his journey. And I won't be there on the field with him a lot of the time. Not that I was, because he's had other coaches, but we have done a lot of work by ourselves.
Totally, yeah. And you see that. What was it like? See, I was always very mindful to not coach Connor.
Yep.
Because I knew me.
Yep.
And I knew that my investment in him is better done away.
Yep.
And doing like you just do all that one-on-one stuff, going and having a kick with him and all those sort of things and whatever it might be. But I felt my value to him was better away from the game.
Yeah, well, I think you might be able to relate to that a little bit though, because we live together and we would do stuff daily, like whether it's a gym, going for a kick.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I've moved out, we might go to the gym twice a week.
When you show up.
Yeah, half an hour late. Half an hour late.
Well, those are probably the things I will miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are. I mean, he's a lot younger than you, but those are the things we do together.
Yeah.
We go train together. It's
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
as we're going to the gym together, whatever. We're going to train together.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
This is you got similar, you see the similar stuff. You like the similar stuff. Yeah. Just go back on that preparation stuff you were talking about for him before as well. Your old man's preparing you to play a sport that it's international but not as big. Your young fella's going to be playing a sport that's watched by billions. So you got to
game.
you got to take that to another level, but still teeter on the line of being too hard.
Yeah, well, that might sound, when you hear me say, "Oh, you're being really hard on him," and that might rub people the wrong way, and that's fine. But when you actually see the conditions that the kids are put in over in Europe, which I have seen firsthand because we've travelled there and done it many times. My fathering is nothing compared to what they're going into, and they're doing it over 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
And so when people might say, that's a bit extreme, that's actually just what's happening over in Europe.
Yeah.
And they sign him up at 9.
Yeah.
And we've touched on it off air and things like that, the backlash that you've had.
Yeah, from like family members as well.
Online, or being trolled for the workload that your 10-year-old son is being put into. And I remember watching it and you talking about the volume that, you can have into his pre-adolescent body.
Yeah.
Because when he hits puberty, those fundamentals stay with him because he's almost a baby giraffe.
That's what's going to get him through in the end. That's what the science is telling us anyway.
That's crunch time. I was speaking to a mate of mine, Mark. He's a PT, in Brisbane, and he follows soccer a fair bit. He was talking about on Monday morning. I was having a chat to him about Rome and getting all that. So he comes from a sports background as well as, being backed because he studied it.
Yeah.
He was talking about getting that load into him now because it's going to carry him through.
It's a really small window. Yeah, but I know he's going to go through it.
And he said to me that exact thing, that he's got a very small window to get the biomechanical structure right now. So whatever happens with him as he transitions to a man, but that is important to have it into him now. People don't know that, but everything you're training him now is scientifically backed.
100%.
He's got the best of the best around him,
100%,
and his diet and all those sort of things.
Yeah, so his program is very structured. It's like the most structured 12-year-old program you can have in the country. It's written by a bloke that was a sports scientist in 3 sports. He's worked in rugby union, rugby league. He's worked in basketball. It was specifically written for him and his body type. And off what's happened to his 2 older brothers who went through, they're a similar size to him, very small, very petite, and now they're 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
And so Rome's going to go through a growth spurt, and he's going to be able to do no training because he's, like you said, he'll be like a newborn giraffe. He'll have to learn how to run again with his big body. He knows how to run now with his small limbs. He's very compact and he's a very good athlete. When he starts growing, he gets to 6 foot, and he does it in 2 years. Everything changes. Your running pattern, your running gait. If you haven't put in and built the load and the system into your body and you want to be an athlete, you just don't do anything for 2 years. You come back, everyone's just so far in front of you. You've just missed. The window is so small, and most parents don't know about it. I actually got a really good example for you. I had a parent talking to me about, he's a really good cricketer, bowler, and he's having a growth spurt, and he can't bowl at the moment. Everything's just his back's going, his groins are going. I said, how old is he? She said, he's 15. I said, you got to just stop him. Just don't do anything. She's like, it's in a really important phase of his career. He's getting into
which is not wrong. He is, however.
Yeah, but you can only do what your body's going to allow you to do. I said, you're going to put him in these high intense situations, and these, he's going to be working with really good batters. He's working with the elite Queensland batters. These guys are no mugs. And then you're going to send him into the bowl at 50%. He's got a sore back. His groins are going. He's growing.
Yeah.
He's not going to give a good account of himself. They're going to look at him and say, this kid just ain't got it. It's not that he ain't got it. He physically doesn't have it because he physically can't do it at the moment. He's still growing. You
can't tell a 15-year-old kid to stay away from it though, and to go at 50%.
It's hard. Yeah.
If he's going to play a sport that he loves, he's going to go 100% at it.
100%.
So he's got to try and cut it off. But then that's pretty hard to do as a kid, a teenager, to stop doing what you love.
Well, it's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
How do you stop a 15-year-old who's quite an elite cricketer from bowling, and he's had a chance where he can get into all the best teams?
Yeah.
Well, how do you stop him? It's hard as a parent, and especially a parent that, and this, not to sound the wrong way, but a parent who's uneducated on how the body's working and how it's growing, what we just spoke about. Someone who's done a lot of it in sports science or knows anything about how the body grows for young men would know that, hey, just back it down a bit here. It's going, in the long run, if you give it 6 months here, you're going to come back and just be firing on all cylinders.
It's got to come from someone higher up, though, like those people.
Surely if he's any sort of at any elite level of 15, he's got people around him.
He has now. I think she's taken him to see a doctor who's pretty much said what I said.
Yeah.
It's you just got to let him grow for a little bit. It's just everything's starting to grow at the moment, and you're just putting him in high intense situations. It's just not good for his long-term development.
But he's only going to come back better.
100%.
He's going to grow. He's going to get stronger. He's going to walk quicker.
That's a great point that you brought up, Connor, because some clubs or some teams won't give those kids the opportunity because it's like there's another one knocking at the door at the back. So I can see why parents just keep pushing.
Yeah.
And there's a really good example over in the Premier League. This is the only example there. I'm sure there's plenty out there, but there's a player called Scott McTominay who's a really good footballer, right? And at 16 he was like tiny.
Yeah.
Like, really tiny. Like I don't know the exact height he was, but apparently he grew like ridiculous over this 16-year-old period. He just couldn't do anything. Every time they tried to bring him back after 3 or 4 months, he just like couldn't run. So the 2 years they gave him at the most crucial point, like they could have just let him go. They gave him 2 years to grow, and then when he finally came back and grew at 18, he came back as a brilliant player.
Yeah,
but they persisted with him for 2 years, where he did nothing for 2 years, literally nothing. How many clubs are going to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's got to be backed by something. Like they've got to.
He was a good player. They knew he was going to be good, and they persisted. I don't know the ins and outs, but I can't imagine he would have been there too much longer. They weren't going to give him till he was 23.
A list clogger.
He's just there sitting there doing nothing. They're probably looking at it going, hey, it's about time if he's not running soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what Mark, he said that the window, you need to be doing this at 8, 9, 10, 11 and getting that volume in because the window is so small to have it. But to the uneducated who sit there and be keyboard warriors.
Yeah, and I've had family members say to me, hey, look, just in a serious conversation, like, is Rome happy? I'm like, yeah, why?
Well, they think you're like a dance mum.
Yeah, they're like, because you're training him so much. I said, mate, he wakes me up in the mornings. If I'm not awake, he'll wake me up. It's like today, it was his scheduled day off today, and we went out with my mum for lunch. And as soon as we finished lunch, he says, are we doing anything today? We're going to do something. I'm like, no, mate, I need a rest.
Yeah.
I've got to do a podcast with a few mates, so I'm not there mentally, mate.
What would he do without you? Would he be doing something?
He's in the backyard now. When I left, he was in the backyard going nuts. He's just sweating up a storm.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's just got so much internal drive. You know what I mean? And look, I can easily sit here and say, look, because I'm not one of those parents who doesn't see what it's like actually after. I know how hard it is.
No, but you've lived it.
I've been it. But I can just say right now, I'll just say it off the bat, he ain't the best kid. I've seen way more talented kids. I've seen way more better kids than him. There's heaps more better athletes in Australia. There's better football players. There's better soccer players. I've seen heaps of them. He's friends with him in England.
Yeah.
He's just not the best. I just know that. I'm 100%. I can just say that. I don't believe it. What he's got, he has got an elite mentality. He's way beyond his years. He's got the mentality of an 18-year-old kid who's already in the system and he's just about ready to play for a first team.
So he's living it in his head already.
In his head, he's there. He's like...
That's the difference.
That's it. So when I say it's probably a lot... It's young to be doing a lot of training and a lot of this load. When is it too young to have an elite mentality? It's not. Whatever he does, if he makes it in sport or if he doesn't, he's going to be successful in whatever he does. He's a disciplined kid. He knows it takes hard work to go and do anything. He will be successful no matter what he does, whether it's sport, business, he'll be successful.
Yeah. We spoke about that on previous episodes about like the lessons you learn from these academies and that sort of stuff and how you can take that into other facets of life. Like football for him's only however long. So if he has a good career, he goes to 40.
Yep.
There's still another 40 years of, 30 years of working.
He's making 40 million a year.
Yeah, probably.
Hopefully.
That'd be nice.
But that's like you said, kind of, you learn good habits from sport. I always think to myself, if I didn't play rugby league? But rugby league actually gave me a really good mentality, discipline.
Yeah.
This is, you got to work for things. If you do, you could, I'm very like, if I see something I want to go do it, I'll put my mind to it. I'll go do it.
Yeah,
that's just the type of person I've been from sport.
Yeah.
Because sport gave me that.
Yeah,
100%. It
100%.
allowed me to do that. And you're probably going to be in the exact same situation. You will look at something, you'll want to do it, you'll see it, and you'll just go and do it.
Yeah, it's just that drive that you get from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking it to other facets of life.
Do you think, I'm very much of that opinion as well, but team sports, because you're not just solely thinking about yourself. Your actions can cause the demise of all of your teammates.
Yeah.
So therefore, you have to think about others.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So that is a real life thing that I know that I've probably carried.
Yep.
Is that being considerate to everyone else.
Everyone else, yeah. Leadership. You've got a really good leadership personality. That's like there's only certain players who have that in both any code, rugby league, rugby. It doesn't matter what you're playing. There's a leadership trait in a personality that there's not many people have it, and I think that those players tend to be more successful than just your average run-of-the-mill team player, is because they're actually making everybody else better.
You're invested, right?
Yeah. I've tried to make him. I don't know if he has got that leadership trait. I've tried to make him. He trains to a level where everyone else gets better because he's just trying so hard. His effort levels are so high. He's trying really hard. But that what you talk about there, that does transfer over into the real world, doesn't it? Especially if you're working with teams and people. You know how to encourage people to get things done. It's not a trait that everybody has. It's a.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty important.
There's always that,
lesson.
like when you play team sport, there's always a couple, or when like you'd go through it and there'd be like one person would fuck up or pull up short when you're running or something like that, and then you all got to do it again. And there was always there was 2 or 3 blokes that'd be like, "Oh, you fucking dickhead." Yeah. But I can guarantee you now they're not doing that well.
100%.
That's what we spoke about before. Wayne Bennett's, finishing a metre after the line.
Yeah.
Because if he caught you,
yeah,
it was almost you're not allowed here.
Yeah.
If you pull up a metre short, you're not taking your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Until you get past that line.
Yeah, the line in sports, which is we know everybody, it's like the most talked about thing,
isn't it? A line, like
the
one
line. The line. Everybody, when you
Just
say the line
through.
to an athlete, they're like, "Oh, I know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone who hasn't played the sport, they're like, "What are you talking about the line? What are you talking about?" I used to honestly, I'd be fuming if someone missed the line. I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
I used to think to myself, it's like an extra 30 centimetres.
exactly.
You couldn't just step one more step over the line. Like
Totally.
I never got it.
Yeah. Well, that's like you got to instill those qualities in your teammates. I guess it'll just make you a good leader as well.
100%. Yeah.
Setting the tone for everyone else.
And that's you either have that quality or you don't. Like you either
go
go over there and pick your teammate up,
Yep.
and dust him off and say, "Let's go again," or you don't give a shit about him.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think later in my career, I think I became a little bit of a leader, but I don't think I had the leadership trait like how you've got it.
But you would have it. It's crazy because leadership can be seen in multiple ways. You would have had the respect of being a leader given your career. So younger players would look up to you naturally.
Yep.
Like that's just a path that happens.
Yep.
So inherently you would have that sense of leadership without working for it. Like it's just
but that's not like, I mean, you've got a really good leadership where you can talk and bring everybody together. I wasn't that player. If someone didn't make the line, I was dirty on them for a week. Like I couldn't bring myself back. You know what I mean? Like
you wouldn't dust them off and give them some sense of encouragement.
I'd just be
you're tipping them out.
I'm at 3 days later. I'd be saying, "I can't believe you missed that line." I'd like be on them.
So you're still hanging on.
I'd be on them. I'd be saying, "You miss another line today. That's it."
Yeah.
There's a little bit of leadership though, like you're threatening him.
Yeah, I was a threatener. I used to love giving a spray out. But then we had, I've had really like Stephen Price reminds me a lot of how you used to be when you captained us. He will put his arm around people and lift everyone up. He's stern when he needs to be, but he's the guy that would.
So you talk about that line with him.
You knew if you made him angry, you knew you done wrong. Yeah. But I mean, when I played in that Bulldogs team, mate, we had an unbelievable group of players. Like Willie, he was the biggest trash talker I've ever played with, and the biggest sledger, but could back it up every single time.
Oh,
I heard him on his
a
podcast,
couple of videos he had mic'd up and stuff like that.
He could back it up every time.
How good is that?
Every single time.
Yeah.
He just had a crazy belief in his ability, and he could just back it up every time. And then on that team, we had Sonny, who was all very quiet, but in his head, he just knew he was going to be destined to be the greatest. He just knew what he was.
He's carved from stone, that bloke.
And he just knew how good he was. He believed it, and he just went out and just delivered it.
Yeah.
And the team was great. We had a really good balance of.
JT was on the bench.
JT was on the bench. Braith was starting in the halves. He was probably one of the most resilient, toughest mentally blokes I've played with.
Who was your halfback then?
Shifty Sherwin,
Oh,
genius,
yeah,
absolute genius. Yep. it was just a crazy team. I don't actually know how we got it all together in one. If we had kept that team together, it would have been scary if we could have kept it together for 4 or 5 years.
Why didn't you? What happened?
The first 2 off contract with me and Braith.
Yeah.
And
He went to the Roosters, didn't he?
he went to Roosters. I went to the Tigers. There just wasn't enough money.
Yeah.
Look, we could have, it was a little bit different. Today, they can all, a little bit, they can take pay cuts to stay because
Well,
the salary cap's 10 million.
The third party deals as well, right?
And
seemed like
I think
Penrith,
ours was like 3.5.
Yeah.
You got all these players coming off contract and the money's getting offered at the other clubs. It was too hard to turn down. You're looking, this day and age, if you took less 50 grand, 100 grand, knowing in a couple of years you'll get it back.
Well, there's
To
endorsement
keep the team
deals.
together, you'll do it because what's the difference between 700 and 800?
Yeah, exactly.
You're still getting taxed the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
there's other ways that they'll give you the money as well.
Yeah,
There's
the
ways
third
around it.
parties, who knows what they're doing
Yeah,
these days.
exactly.
I think back in those days, it wasn't. It was whoever cheated the best
Yeah.
won the comp.
Or Melbourne.
Yeah,
They got ripped, didn't they?
Yeah.
They got
They
ripped.
did.
they got
Yeah.
found out. Yeah, I don't know how the Roosters haven't been found out over all these years. They're just probably the best cheaters that the world's ever seen.
Well, like you see, like Penrith now, like their team they're like dwindling away and starting to take those deals, like you said, but their team is stacked.
They played together as kids,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
in their minds, it's probably not the money.
No,
They've
they've all
still
taken
to
pay cuts
them,
at some point.
Yeah.
it's still to them playing with their best mates and
Yep.
keeping that side.
Yep.
To get like the spine have all played together since they were absolute kids.
And I think it's only till recently, with Luai's obviously gone, but he's probably come to the stage of his career where he's got probably 1 or 2 big paydays left. And it's probably time for him to move along now.
Yeah.
He's going to cash in,
He's going to cash in.
Yeah.
so he should.
Yeah. But they'll figure it out, Penrith. They've got a great junior base. They just keep rolling.
Oh, yeah.
They'll just bring on some more.
It's 'cause
kids
they're all
they
being
just
so
come
good
through.
as
They're
well.
just
It's a
like
football
a
factory.
revolving door out there.
100%.
Yeah. It's different. In rugby league, it's easy. They can just keep funding money into that junior system and they can just bring the kids in. See, in AFL, you very rarely get to bring your own juniors through like in a big clump like
Yeah.
Penrith did.
Yeah.
You couldn't bring through 10 players who will play together for 6 years in the AFL.
No,
It
because
would be
that's
impossible.
the draft.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanna get
the
your
draft
views.
just takes it and evens it all out.
Your
Yeah.
views on the draft versus like NRL where they crop through
Yeah.
like you were.
Yep.
What do you think pros and cons to both of them are?
I think eventually that there's got to be some type of draft system in the NRL. I just think it has to. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the rich clubs will just stay at the top.
Like
because-
Melbourne have been good for
Yep.
like 15, 20 years.
Do you back their system though? Like their system.
Melbourne recruit well.
Yeah.
They recruit good juniors. They know how to, like everyone, when the Smith, Cronk, who was
Slater.
Slater era finished, everyone's like, oh, they're Cactus. And
They
then
have Munster.
rolls in.
Oh,
Totally.
And then Harry Grant rolls
Yeah.
in. And then Jerome Hughes is
Hughes,
playing up here
yeah.
with the Titans and everyone thinks he can't kick a can.
exactly.
And they take him down there. Oh, who's this kid? Where's he been? Or where's he been his whole career? Oh, no, you guys just didn't know how good he was.
Yeah.
And Pappenhausen's floating around with the West Tigers. And they're like, oh, this kid's fast, but he ain't got it. And
Yeah.
Bellamy's like, well, bring him down here. And there's something there. It's like all these clubs just keep tripping over themselves in Melbourne. Or they're just laughing their hands.
They're in their grass and they just let
They
them
just
go.
go, oh, well, if you're letting them go, we'll have him.
Yeah, well,
Like
then they
it's-
attract big fish. Like they get Xavier Coates and that sort of stuff.
And the Broncos didn't want him.
Yeah, exactly.
He went through a bit of a phase where he wasn't playing as good. And
Yeah.
the Broncos are like, oh, he's not it. Well, actually, he was it. He just probably needed an arm around him. And
Just back him in, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good.
So I think the AFL is, look, if you're asking me in terms of a product, the AFL is miles in front of the rugby league. They
Yeah.
are just, they'll take over Sydney. I saw this funny thing online and I couldn't believe it. I laughed my head off where the
it's
NRL,
NRL,
and he's
on
trying to
one of
say
the
that,
Fox footy
they're
shows.
never going to take over in Sydney.
Yeah.
Mate, they're already, what are you talking about? They already have the higher percentage of juniors playing AFL in Sydney.
Yeah.
They have already taken over.
Yeah.
They're not going to, but they're there. What do you think those kids are going to do? If the kids don't go and play AFL, they're going to raise AFL kids.
Yeah.
The next generation's going to go to AFL. They're not just going to magically switch over to league and go, oh yeah, my dad, 2 generations of AFL, but I'm playing league. No, it's done. They're going to open another Sydney. It's done in Sydney.
Yeah.
Gary Jack's young bloke went played
Yeah,
for Sydney.
and he was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, Kieran Jack.
Yeah.
Played AFL.
Gone.
Yeah, he was good. Wasn't he?
Premiership player.
Yeah.
Multi, maybe. Yeah, I guess it keeps the league of that, like AFL, even as well. Like you go through your 4 years of prime.
Yep.
And then you go back through the draft. Like Richmond, they just drafted, felt like they had every second pick of the top 20, but they won, 3 out of the 4 years.
Yeah.
And now give them 3 years, and if they can keep this crop together,
Yep.
they'll be
What's that
That'd be
crop
good
like
again.
that they've just drafted?
Well, this year's draft is supposed to be touted as a super draft,
Really?
but it was quite deep compared to last year. Like your pick 30, pick 40s probably would have gone like 20 last year. So that was like a really good draft.
You speak about getting load into these draft kids now. They're ready to go.
To play?
Yes.
In the men's game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
why? Why do you say that?
well, you're talking about getting load into young kids early. Like, there's a plethora of coaches out there that are working with kids one-on-one that are draft prospects. They're doing gym. They're running. Like, they're ready. They're pretty much ready to go and play at an elite level now when they're 18. But you never used to see that.
Yeah.
And they're getting player managers from when they're 14 years old as well. So then that manager would manage blokes in the AFL, and that's just filtered through.
So the draft preparation is starting a lot younger now.
Well and truly.
Yeah.
Well
So
and truly.
that's going to just every year just trickle down a little bit younger, a little bit younger.
I think so.
A little bit younger until it gets to like people over on this side of the world don't actually realise how competitive it is over on the other side of the world in their number one sport. So the number one sport in Europe is football, soccer.
Yeah.
The kids get signed to go to the academies. So Rome, when we were in England, he got into the Spiderweb, which is like an outside club of Man City when he was 6. They bring him in and they just nurture them through. You might go in there once or twice a week. Yeah, give them a little taste. Then they get to like 8, 9, then you're in.
Yeah.
And that's it. Some of the kids just stay in there all the way through. There's a rugby league player called Kylie Lulawai who was playing at Manly, and he moved over to play for Leeds. And his son Marley was just playing rugby league. No one played rugby league. He was mates play soccer. So he's like, oh, well, I'm going to go play soccer. Anyway, it turns out he's really good.
Yeah.
So he then gets signed by Man City. He goes all the way through their academy and gets signed, and they love him. He's there's not many Islanders over there, so he's a big kid at the place centre back, and he can defend and he's strong. Yeah. He's hard to push off a ball one-on-one, doesn't matter where he comes from. So, and then he's just been transferred to Burnley, and he's to play in the first team for like, I think a few £1 million.
Crazy.
He went through the whole thing from when he was like 9 or 10.
Are they in the Premier League?
Yeah. They just went down last year to the championship.
Yeah. It's still good coin, isn't it?
Oh, crazy coin.
It's ridiculous coin.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Tell me, I want to ask you a question. What legacy do you want to leave? What does Jamo want to leave? Who do you want to be known for?
Oh, look.
What do you want to be known for?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose just being a good bloke.
Yep.
Like I always think about, like your legacy is kind of like who you leave behind, which will be my son. And I just want him to be, I want to raise him to just be a good man, a good person.
Yep.
And I think that's important in the world we live in today. And I think like that's the type of person I would like to be remembered as, is just the type of person he was, just a good all-round bloke.
Yep. Nice.
Old-fashioned Aussie bloke.
Yeah.
You call yourself an
Aussie?
Well, I've been here my
You represent New Zealand.
I did represent New Zealand. I was born there, but I've lived here the majority of my life.
You're definitely
This
an
is
Aussie.
home,
You definitely capture all of the
This is actually home now. My wife, I'll tell you a good story. My wife came here from England. It took me 10 years to get her home. She just wouldn't. She couldn't. We came for Christmas here one year on the Gold Coast. She's like, I could move to this place. I said, right, let's go. Yeah. So we've moved here. She's now a full-blown Aussie. And I can't get her out. I can't get her out. She's like, no, I don't want to leave. This is home now. This place is home. And why would you want to leave this place? It's
so true.
It's heaven on earth, this joint.
We live in a place everyone comes to holiday.
Yeah.
It's getting a bit annoying, to be honest.
It is.
It's fucking busy.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, mate. Appreciate it massively.
Thanks for having me on, boys. Been good.
Very good. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Like and subscribe.